Welcome to the Season 2 finale of Birth Through the Veil. I'm Melissa Camruden. What a year of dream guests and co-creating dream content with so many wise women. I have loved tapping into the veins of gold that exist in all of our stories. You have one too, a vein of gold that is your medicine and is the medicine the world needs. I'm just back from a wonderful few days at Earth Daughters where I got to officially meet Jane Hardwick Collins and so many women who've been on the podcast and so many other women, wise women, all of us. Every time I hear Jane speak, whether or not it's something I've heard her speak on before, I learn so much. And you have one more chance to connect with her. She's going to be in Vancouver July 11, 12, and 13th. She's hosting 3 separate workshops, so it's 3 one-day workshops. The first one is Moon Song, connecting with your menstrual cycle and rites of passage. And then the shamanic dimensions of pregnancy. And finally, Autumn Woman, Harvest Queen, all on menopause and perimenopause, or Sage Essence, as we're all renaming it, with Jane's inspiration. If you were at Earth Daughters, you have a discount code to attend these workshops. This is not an opportunity to be missed. But back to the season finale, Caitlin is joining me to share her Freebirth story of her twins. This is an uncommon story in BC, in Canada, and in many, if not most parts of the world. Twins are highly pathologized here and are almost always induced early, and as we know with inductions, often end up in C-section babies. You might get a midwife. You'll definitely be referred to an obstetrician or surgeon. You might get shared care. You might lose your midwife. It's kind of how it goes with twins here. Caitlin tells a beautiful story and provides another vein of gold for us all to mine.
All right.
Hello, Caitlin.
Hello, Melissa. Thank you so
Hi.
much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing your story. I think did you post your story to your YouTube channel?
Yes.
At some point?
Yes.
I feel like I've watched it quite a long time ago.
It's very possible. Yeah. It's very it's very possible. Yeah.
But I am looking forward to hearing it again, and I find birth stories evolve, just like memory and stories, and as you process more and you learn more, new details come out depending on what you're thinking about at the time. So I'm always into a retelling too.
It's been a while since I've told it, so it'll be interesting to see what comes up.
Oh, so good. So where does your mothering journey begin?
So my mothering journey began with my first daughter, Safia. And that pregnancy was I always knew that I wanted to be a mother. That's the one thing that I have known for sure in my life. At 9 years old, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I want to do, in terms of, career and that kind of thing. But I know that I want to be a mother. And so that was something that I was always calling in. And so when I met my partner, Matisse, I told him right after we met, I want to have kids really soon. He was like, oh, no, I'm not ready. And then fast forward a few years. And I had been thinking about it so much. I felt like I was I'm ready to be pregnant. I'm ready to be pregnant. And actually at that time I was on an IUD. So I thought that it was going to be a conscious choice for us to get pregnant together. And I somehow got pregnant through the copper IUD.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was actually a complete surprise, my first pregnancy. And even I really shook myself about that because I was oh my God, I had been thinking about wanting a baby so badly that I managed to somehow manifest through a copper IUD having a baby. I still can't really make sense of it. So that's where it sort of began, which that was quite a surprise for the both of us. But every step of the way, it was okay, no, yeah, healthy baby, okay, seeing the ultrasound every step of the way, and then we both kind of were okay, let's do this. Even though it was such a shock and such a surprise. So yeah, every step of the way we were choosing it, and I would say that's in that pregnancy was when I first kind of I definitely became much more aware of making my own choices. In that pregnancy, I really wanted to have a home birth for that pregnancy, actually. Um, but I felt like I had done so much of the work to learn about birth and to really to have a home birth. Like I kind of thought like, oh well, I can just have it at home, even though every step of the way I was making choices to have a hospital birth. It was, yeah, looking back on it, I'm like, okay, I wasn't
Mhm.
actually like prepared at all. But yeah, I was more drawn, I guess, to having a more holistic pregnancy. And I learned to understand like, okay, like, oh, I can decline that, or I can say yes to this. And you know, I felt like I was making my own choices along the way. And then for that, yeah, I did have a hospital birth um with her. And yeah, it's it was yeah, it was not what I had imagined, I guess, because I had sort of thought that I was going to be having a supernatural birth. And it was so funny because like I went into the hospital with like this sheet that I had printed off that said like no to this, no to that, yes to this, you know. And it was sort of interesting because then once I was in that environment, I realized that it's you I think you absolutely can advocate for yourself in that setting, but with it being my first baby and just after 30 hours and the state that I was in and all of this pressure that was around me, I did end up like kind of throwing that to the wayside and being like, okay, whatever you guys need to do, just do it.
Mhm.
And yeah, so then I mean, when I look back on it, I'm like, okay, it was like still such an amazing experience. We had so much love around us. We had our family and, we had a beautiful, healthy baby and all these sorts of things. But I found for a long time afterwards, I was like sort of picking up the pieces from that birth, like trying to understand like why it ended up happening the way that it did. Why was there so many interventions? And it was tough, along with becoming like a new mom and
Mhm.
just trying to wrap my head around like, oh my god, why did I have to have my baby taken away from me like right away, and all these types of things. And yeah, so it took me some time to kind of understand that. And so yeah, it
I
was definitely an interesting intro into motherhood, I would say,
Yeah,
in
birth
the
is
beginning.
it's a hard time to self-advocate. And even, like as we sit here as like strong women, where if anybody were to ask us something we didn't want for our children right now, we'd be like, it would be no problem.
Yeah.
Right. But in birth, it's like you really move into an altered state. And
Mhm.
you may or may not have the capacity to self-advocate at that time, but it's not the time for it. Like it would have to
Mhm.
pull you away from the place you're trying to go to meet your baby in
Mhm.
order to decline and decline and decline in power
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
it's
no time to be doing that, for sure.
mhm. And even the
Yeah.
processing of that then postpartum is so hard. As you're right, you've become a new mom and a new family and met a new human. And yeah, I think that sometimes, like when we've had like the good hospital birth or even like the good home birth that was then felt traumatic, I think we gaslight ourselves a little bit. And it happens in our society where we're supposed to just be grateful for the healthy baby. Like everybody's
Yes.
here, everybody's right. And that's so important. And it's the lowest bar. The lowest
Mm.
bar of birth is
Yeah.
the healthy baby. Like there's so much more richness there, as I'm sure you're getting
Totally.
into.
Yes. Totally. Yeah, absolutely. It was an I just back on that and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm sure, I think that's like for every mother, is that for your first, you don't know so much. And I remember hearing this something one time, I can't remember where it was, but it was that our children meet us at such an interesting time in our lives.
Mm.
And I always think about that because it's like, I feel like it is partially designed that way, that we're, you're not meant to know everything necessarily. Like, I feel like there is so much more that we could be informed on just from, that was lost in the last, 100 somewhat years around like birth and becoming a mother that we don't know about. But there are just elements that you do have to learn and pick up through that initiation. You can't imagine, you can't be prepared for, caring for a new baby or breastfeeding or sleepless nights and stuff like that. So I felt like that experience felt like so much more challenging because I was like still trying to understand, well, what is wrong with me? Like, why, like what happened? Like, why wasn't I able just to have it? I mean, I did have a vaginal birth, but it was still like, I just, I had the epidural, she was vacuumed out, like all these different things. And then, just like comments about, oh, your baby's so stubborn, or your body is not like working because it's your first baby. Like just kind of comments like that just kind of I would like really like marinate on postpartum. And I was like, really, like, what is that? Is that true? And I actually kind of at that time was in such a vulnerable state that I did believe it was true. So anyways, that really, I really did struggle with that for a while after my first. And then I knew, like, already when we started talking about having a second child, that I was like, I am going to give birth at home for sure. I knew that was going to happen. And I knew that I was going to have, I felt like I was having another opportunity to really step into making my own choices 100%. Not like wanting to do something and then saying something, just, going along with what else, what other people wanted me to do. But I was like, no, I'm making my own choices this next time. And then, so I kind of, that was 3 years after my first was born. I found out that I was pregnant again. And it was like, we just thought, okay, so this time around, I'm going to choose a different care provider. This time I'll go with a care provider that supports home births. And it felt all like very straightforward, really. And then this was also during COVID. So this would have been like, I guess, end of 2020. Like maybe like fall, winter 2020. So I wasn't going in for like any in-person appointment. So it was all like on the phone and stuff. And then I remember then went in for my first ultrasound and found out that I was pregnant with twins. So this totally like shook us, because I was like, okay, now what? Because I thought that it was going to be all very straightforward, like, we'll have a home birth and this is what we're going to do this time. But then now with twins, like, now what happens? So I really felt like the rug had been pulled from beneath me, because with something I thought was going to be so predictable, just, ended up totally throwing me for a loop. And I, wasn't really sure what the next steps were. And, I was told that with twins, I was now, stamped with the high risk label, and that I wouldn't be able to work with a midwife. So that was...
Did they offer you shared care or anything?
They did, in the sense of like, oh, okay, well, we can... The midwife can come do some of the prenatal care and a little bit of the postnatal, but that I would have to be with a doctor or OBGYN for the actual birth. I don't believe it was shared care for the labor, though. Like I don't think that was offered at the time.
I guess it would depend on your midwives. Like in BC, if you want a registered care provider, I don't know of any midwives that would go to a twin birth at home. So really in BC, for most people, if you're having twins in BC, you're set up to have a hospital birth, really high likelihood of a C-section.
Yeah.
And you're being followed by a high risk surgeon. An obstetrician
Yeah.
is a surgeon, so
Yeah.
you're being followed by a surgeon. The likely outcome is surgery. Yeah, and so there aren't options there. I could imagine, like, when you look at the regulations for midwives, that if one felt like they wish to support it, they could, but the pressure is so high in their hospitals not to do that. They would be so judged by colleagues, right? That
Yeah.
I know lots of midwives. I don't actually know of any registered midwife attended home births, and I think that's pretty consistent across Canada.
Mm.
Yeah. So like I
Yeah.
think the thought is when you have twins, it's like, well, now I can't have a home birth. Like, who's gonna
Yeah.
come?
That was
Yeah.
kind of where I was at.
Mhm. Yeah.
um and yeah, I tried. I tried very much to talk to different midwives, and I actually did find one that she did say that she would support me, but she would just be there to do the hospital transfer.
Mm.
If there needed to be a hospital transfer, I should say. So I was like,
Mhm.
well, I don't really want that energy in my space of someone just kind of like watching out for a sign that I might have to go to the hospital. I mean, because that could be, what does that look like? That could be something that, you know, wouldn't feel necessary for me, but could feel
Mhm.
necessary for the midwife. And therefore I didn't really, that felt like too much of a risk for me, honestly, to have someone there that was just kind of like
Mhm.
watching in that way,
Looking
because
for a problem.
exactly. And when you're looking for a problem, then it's easy to find them. So I
Mhm.
was like, no, I don't think that's, yeah, the kind of energy that I wanted to have at my birth. So yeah, so I went with, the OBGYN, and, yeah, I felt it was my only option. So kind of had to like shut down the part of me that wanted to, step into this, to what I really felt like I wanted to do. Like I sort of, yeah, it was sort of sad in a way. I just was like, okay, I'm just going along with it, and that's what I need to do now. Um, and and then and I didn't want to see like any home birth videos. I didn't want to read any books. I didn't even really want to take care of myself, to be honest. For like that very short period of time, I was sort of so shut down to wanting to like have any influence on my birth, because I was just like, well, I'm
Mhm.
just probably going to end up having, yeah, the C-section. And so what's the point in even trying? And yeah, after a few months, I sort of was like, maybe maybe I should read a book about orgasmic birth. That doesn't sound so bad. Like, what's the harm in reading that? It could still be an ecstatic hospital birth. And so I started kind of like slowly reading more, and sort of like, yeah, watching videos, and it just was like just all confirming to me like everything that I wanted to hear about just the birth that I wanted to have.
Mhm.
And then I joined a women's circle, a birth circle, and I was, again, this was during COVID time, so this was all over the computer, and everyone was sharing their desires about the birth that they wanted for themselves. And then it came around to me, and I just said that I was like, I want to have my babies at home right here, right over here. And and that's what I want to do. I want my whole family there, and I that's how I want to give birth. And I was so scared. I was shaking. My lips were shaking. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, everyone thinks I'm crazy. Like, I want to have like a twin birth. And I was like, you know what? No, I've said it. And that's what I truly, truly felt, was that like in my heart, in my gut, that's what I wanted. And that once I said it out loud, it kind of, yeah, started forward from there. And I spoke to my husband, and I just said, yeah, like I want to have these babies at home. And he was like, no, 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 like you can't, like, let's just get a doula. Let's just get a doula. We'll have them in the hospital. Like, just, it's fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. And I was like, no. Like, I can't go through what I went through before. I can't go through that again. I have to follow what I'm feeling. And so he was like, okay, well, if we can learn everything and learn how to do it on our own and, educate ourselves and yeah, he's like, I'm on board. If we can just, learn how to do this. And so I was like, okay. And I kind of just went forward from there. And then after that, I was like, just became like so obsessed with birth, like just so incredibly, like I dove so hard. It was like my full-time job to learn about birth, to learn. I wanted to read every single book ever written on birth. I wanted to listen to every single podcast, watch everything I ever could, talk to anyone I could talk to about it. I just became so obsessed. And just spent all of my time really wanting to understand how it worked and how it could work best. And how does that happen? And all these things that I was not even aware of before. It's not something, even with my first pregnancy, even though I felt like I had read all the books and I had done all the things, there was still so many more levels to learning about birth that I wasn't aware of. And so, that was my whole life. And then I just like I ate like so exceptionally well. And just really took care of myself and pampered myself. I did all of the right exercises, all the right things. Like I just felt like I was so tapped in and so on it for myself, like really tuning into like, what do I need? I had been vegan for like, I think it was a year or two before that. Suddenly all of a sudden, no, my body, I need meat right now. Like right now, babe, I need you to go to the store. I need you to grab me oysters right now, and this was like, of course, this was how tuned in to myself that I was about what it was that I needed at every given moment. And that was really cool because like I felt like I was really tapped into my intuition even more than ever before. And then learning about like being able to differentiate between fear and what is my fear voice and what is my intuitive voice and how are those different and how do those feel differently in my body? Like how can I tell between those two things? Because for a long time I wasn't able to, and I feel like I was able to establish that much better during that birth. And it was just such a cool experience. Like I just felt so free once I had made that decision. But even still, I still hadn't actually told my care provider, and I wasn't sure if I was going to tell my care provider if I was going to have, like, I was kind of planning on just staying with her and going along with it at the beginning.
Because you just had the OB at this point?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like no midwife, just,
No midwife. Like I kind of had mentally decided that I was going to do it on my own, and I told my husband, that was about it. And then we actually, I should have said before, but from that women's circle that I was in, my doula actually spoke in that circle as well. And she was talking about her free birth of her son and like this ecstatic birth that she had had. And from there, I remember like thinking, ooh, maybe I should contact her. She's a doula. I ended up contacting her, and so we had hired her on, which felt really amazing. I felt so good having someone in our corner that literally, like from the moment I told her how I wanted to give birth, she just believed in me from the second I told her. And that was so, like, it's so amazing. All you really need is one person to believe in you, like it, because obviously I had the belief in myself, but to have someone like, she never gave up on me. Like it still makes me emotional to this day because she really was just like, yeah, like I believe in you. And that's it. I was always so worried that she would come at me with some type of doubt or some type of thing. She never did. She always just was like, keep following what you are feeling. And so that was really special. And so we had her on board, and so it was just this like very small little circle of the three of us that knew what was happening. And yeah, at that point, gosh, the timeline is such a blur to me, but I want to say I must have been around. Yeah, I think it would have been nearing more towards the end. Like I had decided that I wanted to have the babies at home, but as it got to the end, I realized like how much more intense it was becoming at my OB appointments in terms of like, okay, now you have to do this test or you have to do this thing or you have to do that. And since I was high risk, it was so much more than a regular pregnancy. And I was like, oh, how am I going to start like dodging all of these things that I don't want to do? And then for the last appointment that I went in, I actually, because I had like up until that point, it had maybe been like 5 ultrasounds. And I was like not wanting to have ultrasounds anymore. And, you know, it was just the little Doppler ones in her office. But I was like, I don't want to have any more ultrasounds. Like there's got to be another way that she can do prenatal care on me. So I went in for that last appointment and I'm serious. I felt like I was like, that was like the one point of anxiety in my life was having to go in for these appointments.
Yeah.
I had no other, stress in my life. I was in such a good place. But when I went in for these appointments, I was like on the brink of having a panic attack, really. Like I felt so scared to go in there, to go into someone else's space and then suddenly want to, you know, stand my ground and ask for the things that I wanted. So I was basically like, I'm just going to go in and lay it out all on the line and see what they say and we'll go forward from there. So I basically just went in and I said, yeah, I don't want an ultrasound today. And she's like, oh, I can't do prenatal care on you if I don't do an ultrasound. So I was like, okay.
I have no other skills. The ultrasound is it.
Right. Like, how can it be so bare minimum? Like, I was like, that's it. Like, you can't use your hands to feel where the babies are. Cause I knew in my gut where the babies were positioned. I knew.
Yeah.
And she was like very firm with me about, no, it has to be an ultrasound.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it really
it's like
was.
Those skills are gone. Like women no longer carry, like the wise women of birth those are supposed to be the wise women of birth no longer carry those skills. They literally can't.
And I literally realized that exact thing in that moment. I was like, there's nothing, nothing else you can offer me with. Like
you actually don't have no skills.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, wow, okay, this is shocking. Really. And, and the worst part is that because again, I went along. I was like, oh, okay, fine. So I went along with having that last ultrasound. And she told me from the ultrasound exactly what I already knew within me. I was like, yeah, I know. But she felt very relieved about the fact that we had done that ultrasound. So I realized, I was like, this doesn't really have anything to do with me then, does it? It has more to do with like you feeling better about it. Cause I was like, I'm good. Like I feel good. And then I sort of was like, I started asking questions. I'd really like to have my daughter at the birth. Can I have my daughter at the birth? And she's like, I don't think you would really want to have your daughter at the birth. And I was like, I really do. And then it was sort of like, there was a few other things I asked. Oh, I said that I didn't want to have an epidural. And she was like, no, you have to have an epidural because the thing is with twins, like you were saying before, is that it's actually easier for them if you have the epidural because then if they have to do a C-section, then you've already had the epidural. They don't have to, do the whole thing.
You're being prepped for surgery.
Like pretty
right
much.
Now in her office, they're prepping you for surgery in your mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm trying to figure out like, oh my gosh, like how much harder it would be if I had surgery, like with like, okay, so I'm already going to have twins plus a 3-year-old. Then I'm going to have to be recovering from this surgery plus learning how to breastfeed twins. But there was just so many things I couldn't wrap my head around. I was just like, this just doesn't make any sense to me. Genuinely doesn't make any sense. And I left that appointment. I got in the car and I said, you know what? I can't stay with her. So I can't remember if I mentioned before that my plan was to just stay till the very end and then just be like, whoopsie, like I
Mm-hmm.
gave birth at home by accident kind of thing. But I realized that it
Mm-hmm.
was not going to be so easy because I was going to have to go along with so many different appointments and the stress test and the this and the that. And there was just so many different things. And I was like, this is bringing way too much stress to my life. And I'm not going to do it. So I walked away. I remember it so well on the day that I did it. My husband and we left my daughter with my parents, and him and I went for a drive. We were like driving through the forest and in the endowment lands. And it was just like, I made the phone call and I didn't even talk to anyone. I just left a voice message being like, hi, like I actually just said that I was switching care providers. And I was like basically saying I'm not coming back. And then, oh, I felt so free after. I was just like, okay, like I really felt like it's just me. It's just me. Like this is me and my babies and my body and my family. And I'm following this. Like I can't really put that feeling into words. Like that's just,
Mm-hmm.
it just felt like this was what I was meant to do, you know? And I couldn't, I couldn't explain that to anyone. So I actually didn't. I actually didn't tell anybody because I was not, I didn't want to have to, you know, explain or justify it, because when you're explaining something to someone and you say, well, it's just how I feel, it's not, it doesn't cut it for people, you know, like,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that was kind of the end of that and the beginning of something so new. And yeah, we just like, it was sort of just carried on with where I was already at, which was just like doing my own prenatal care, um, which looked like just really taking care of myself. And um, yeah, I did so much work around just like rewiring thoughts in my mind. And yeah, I used a lot of EFT tapping, writing, journaling, um, so many different, I just used so many different things that felt right for me at the time. So it was just more and more of that.
How many weeks do you think you were when you
When I
quit the
walked
OB?
away,
Mm-hmm.
God, I want to say around 32 or 33 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I had decided, I would say around, gosh, it might have been around 20, 22, 25, something like that. Yeah, it was much earlier on when I was like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do it my way, actually. Do it. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. The timeline is such a blur, though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so then from there, it was, yeah, just about getting ready, getting prepped, and still working with my doula, and you know, just yeah, getting ready for this new stage. And I felt like I was just so much more mentally prepared and physically prepared for even having twins. Like this was going to be, you know, I had to completely change how I was going to look at this. So yeah, it was just a whole new ball game, that's for sure. And then so around, yeah, I guess it was coming up to the due date. So because I had done all of the early scans. I had all of the, you know, um, the predicted due dates, all that kind of stuff. I had done all of that. And I actually even had I did the blood work in the very beginning, to find out, um, the genders. And it was, yeah, I guess I can't remember. Oh my gosh, all the weeks are such a blur now, but that was very, very early on. And we
Mm-hmm.
had the envelope with the genders written in it, like sent to our house. And I was like, oh, should we check them? And then when we had it in our hands, we were like, no, let's just wait. So I had the genders like tucked away in our closet. And yeah. And then so when it came up to, it was like the day before, or maybe it was 2 days before the due date, I had a tea with our doula, and I remember just like talking to her, and I was saying like, yes, this is like, I just feel this is so right for me. This is exactly what I meant to do. My grandmother also had twins, like,
Mm.
how long that would have been, 75 years ago. So, and I have no idea what that birth story was like. No idea. Like, and I've
Mm.
asked everyone in the family, I'm like, what happened? Like, what was it like? Did she know she was having twins? And nobody knows, because for a long time, people didn't talk about their births. Like,
Yeah.
women wouldn't talk about it. And it's also partially because I think they didn't want to talk about it, because they didn't want to relive, what it looked like.
I imagine it would have been likely fairly traumatic at
I
that point,
imagine,
right? Like
I
that's
imagine so.
probably a hospital birth. Like that sounds like
Definitely.
around the time they were doing like twilight sleep and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
yeah.
It must have been.
Yeah.
So women wouldn't even remember necessarily what their birth would have been like. So that's why they
Yeah.
wouldn't have talked about it. So it could have been a twilight birth. I don't know, but I imagine that it would have been pretty traumatic.
Mhm.
So it just felt like it was
Mhm.
kind of this, like, and my grandmother's long since passed away, but I felt like I could feel like this was very much my time to sort of have this birth that felt really
Mhm.
right for me. And I remember talking about that. And then anyways, we had this like amazing sort of like chat together. And then the next day, I'm like sort of like in the kitchen, and I'm sort of like moving around on the counter, and I'm sort of like, starting to like moan and groan, and like I can feel like I feel weird. I feel tired. And like this pregnancy also, I haven't even mentioned, was so hard. It was so insanely hard. Like carrying twins is like, I would say that's like the biggest difference. It's on a whole other level of heavy. Like
Yeah.
it was just insane. Like I could barely walk at the end. Like I could barely get down the stairs, go for a walk around the block. Like that was, I had to like force myself to do it, but I was huge.
Mhm.
So I was like extremely uncomfortable in the end there. And yeah, so anyways, this was the day before their actual predicted due date. And I'm like, I feel so, I don't feel good. I feel like blah, and so tired today. And, I just want to relax, and lo and behold, I'm starting to like feel some sensations. And I was like super against doing anything to get the birth started, because I was like, it's gonna go when it's gonna go, like I listened to a lot of Sarah Buckley, and I just remember her so clearly saying that it's
Mhm.
like there's no science behind like what actually gets labor started. It's kind of like just like a key going into a lock. Like once it turns, everything is all in alignment and it's ready to go. So I
Mhm.
remember being like, yeah, I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to let it all happen as it's meant to. But I had actually, for that day, I had booked to go see my osteopath, because I was like, maybe she has some kind of like pressure point or something that she can help me with. And then I remember texting her around like 4 p.m. being like, no. I think it's actually starting. Never mind. And yeah, by 7 p.m., my contractions were like in full swing. My daughter was going to sleep, and I was like singing her songs. I was on the exercise ball, and it was just like, oh my God, singing and kind of like going through the contractions, which at that point were like so light and so chill. It was all just like, la di da, like this is just starting. And yeah, it was really nice actually. And then it just like slowly started to just build from there. Once I got her to sleep, I was like, I felt like that was like, okay, now I'm like ready to kind of like get more into this. And it just started like building and building. And then yeah, I was getting in the bath. And then I remember telling my husband, Matisse, I was like, you should text our doula. let her know that it's starting. And he was like, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure this is it?" And I remember so clearly, like from my doula as well, that she had said, like, just stay in denial for as long as possible. Like, don't try to dive into your birth right away. Like, don't be like, "Oh my God, it's happening," which is what I did the first time, which was like, "Oh my God, okay, it's happening. Like, we got to call people. We got to get everyone here." So I really tried to stay like just as chill as possible. And but even still, looking back in it, like I was pretty in it like really fast. Like I can't imagine like if I was going around like cleaning and stuff like that. Like I wasn't really in the state to be doing that. And then yeah, so oh gosh. And again, time such a blur, but at gosh, around like 1 or 2 in the morning, the doula arrived. And yeah, at this point I was just like so in it, just going through the waves. And I was so happy when she arrived. It was so nice to have just like an extra set of hands there to help out with getting the birthing pool set up. That was something that I really knew that I wanted for a very long time, was to have the pool. That was like always in my, like when I would envision my birth, it was always like, okay, there's going to be the pool. It's going to be right out here, just right outside our bedroom. And so, yeah, anyway, she came and she started getting the pool going. And then my daughter woke up because I was being so loud that I woke her up from my screams. And yeah, she was just so excited. And so, yeah, we hadn't found out what the genders were, but she like came to me. I was in the bathroom at one point, and she came in and she said, "My sisters are coming. I'm so excited." And I was like, "What? Oh. Your sisters are coming?" Like, and we had no idea what she was. I didn't know. It was after the fact that I realized that she had said that, and that she had already known.
She knew.
She knew. Exactly. So yeah, I was just in it, going through it. But it was so chill, like all at the same time. Like it was just, comparing to my birth in the hospital, where I kept on flashing back to like just, having like a big contractions in front of like care providers that are kind of like staring at me, waiting for me to finish so that I can fill out paperwork. Like it just wasn't like that at all. It was just so incredibly chill. I was just feeling what I needed to feel, saying what I needed to say. Okay, do I need to go over here? Do I need to go over? Like it was just so chill. And yeah, all I remember was like always having a hand to hold. And yeah, my husband, he tried to sleep for a little bit because, of course, my birth, the labor really started around like 7 p.m. So, at the beginning of the night, he was super tired. And yeah, then what happened then? Then it was like, there was the morning, it was all of a sudden I'm like, I can kind of see the light outside, which was just so strange to, I know, because you've had babies, so you know how weird it is to be in this just this different like dimension of like, wait, what? Like it's what time of the day?
It's going on.
Exactly. Like the world. Exactly. It's just the strangest realization that life's still going on. And so, yeah, my mother-in-law lives downstairs from us. So, the day is kind of like starting, and we haven't told her, like we didn't tell her that I was planning on having a home birth. So, the day is starting up, and my daughter's up for the day, and she went downstairs and she's having breakfast with my mother-in-law, and my mother-in-law can like hear me upstairs, and she's sort of like, "What's going on up there?" And my daughter, she was like, she was the one that was kind of like, my mother-in-law says now that my daughter was like kind of her doula, because she was saying, no, it's like very normal. Mama's just getting ready to have her babies and she's so good. Like, yeah. She was explaining to her. And then, yeah, I guess this was around, I'm skipping up over like so many different parts because it just felt like it was just literally me just going through waves for, for so many hours. But yeah, I guess it reached a point where my doula said, oh, maybe you should go try going to the bathroom and seeing how that is. And like, I was so mad at her when she said that. Like, like internally, I remember just being like, I know you're right, but I really don't want to do that. But I also knew that that was kind of what was going to get me to the other side of the place that I was in, because I was just chilling in the pool. I wasn't moving very much. So went to the bathroom, and yeah, that definitely got me like to another point. I think that was sort of set me off to the next level. Then I came back to the pool, and there was, because I had so much resistance, like I felt like I was really fighting against my contractions for the first several hours. And then once I sort of released that, and I was like really working with them and allowing them to do what they needed to do, which I already knew that before labor, but it's totally different when you're in it. So I kind of had to like work through several hours of that. And then once I went to the other side and fully surrendered, then that's when things started to progress so much more fast, so much more quickly. And yeah, so then it was like fully going. There wasn't much change. Like, I didn't have, my water didn't break. Like, there wasn't really any other signs other than that I did reach this point where I looked at Matisse and my doula, and I just looked at them in the face and I just said, I feel like I'm dying. And they just both kind of just like smiled at me and laughed, and yeah.
Sounds like transition.
Exactly. Which I was so glad that we had studied all of this, and that they knew, like, that my husband knew that that's what was happening. And obviously my doula was just like, aw, like, yay.
You are.
Yeah, exactly. In a way I was.
Yeah.
I mean, who I was before was no longer. I was becoming this new person. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And yeah, it was pretty shortly after that and also, yeah, I was so really quiet during that time. And then finally I started, I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and then yeah, my doula came around. She was like, oh, I think I saw something, you should check, because I had stopped checking myself. Oh, and that was another, I loved not being checked. I loved not knowing how dilated I was. I just loved that. Oh, that was so freeing to just like go based off of like what felt right. Okay, I feel like pushing now, I'm going to push. Or like, do I need to check? Okay, I'm going to check. Loved that. So yeah, anyways, I checked after she said that, and I felt a sac, and that was the first time I'd felt anything. So I was like, oh my God, wow. Like, I was so happy. So happy. I pushed the first baby out, and yeah, like pretty quickly. And oh, just that moment of just like, she's in the water, and my daughter is like waving at her, hi, baby. And I brought her
What position did you? Oh, sorry. What position did you choose to be in to push her out?
So I was on my knees, and I noticed that my knees were sort of, I believe, were together. So my knees were together, but my legs were like splayed open kind of in the back.
Yep.
Which felt really right. And when I brought her up, she was covered in this sort of like dark fluid all over her. And I just, in that, like, I had no idea what it was, but I just sucked it up, spat it out, did it again, sucked it up, spat it out, kind of like cleared it away from her face. And she was breathing, but very, very peaceful, so calm, so chill. And she wanted to nurse right away. She was right on it. And then later on, my husband and the doula were like, yeah, so that was meconium, right? And I was like, oh no, I had no idea. Like, I knew about it beforehand, like factually, but in the moment I was just like, oh, there's something on her face, I'm just going to clear it away. which in hindsight, I feel like could have become a thing if I had
Mm-hmm.
had like a midwife or someone around. And then this, that was the crazy part though, was that I was like, then I started having more contractions because I was breastfeeding. Because I started breastfeeding her. So then that she set off the contractions for the next baby to come. And that was a trip because I was just like, oh wow, okay, like I have to do that again. Right? So but it happened so fast. I mean, they were 11 minutes apart. So it was like so fast in hindsight. Or in the moment it was anyways. So literally I started having contractions. My husband gets in the pool and then so I can hand him the first baby. And then I'm like pushing out the next baby and I'm like, oh my God, she's there. Oh my God, she's coming out. And she came out so fast, like so lightning fast. And at that point I had been just on my knees too, but it was like, I can't really remember like any more than that other than just the knees. And I'll never forget the moment of just like seeing her eyes, like just looking right at me and coming up to the surface. And I just started laughing so hard. I could not stop laughing because that was the part that people had feared the most, was the second baby for me. Like everyone kept on saying it's the second baby that you can have issues with. So I was there was still some fear in me that, something could happen with the second baby. Who knows? But she just came up. She was just so aware and so like there with me. And it was just so amazing. And then there we all were. We're just like in the pool, and I've got two babies now. They're both wanting to breastfeed right away, and I could not stop laughing. It was just like so incredibly surreal. And it was just something totally out of this world. And then we were like, okay, what do we do now? Because there's only there's two babies, and then there's only me, which I couldn't really walk. Like, that I'm kind of like trying to float through space to get over to the bed. And I'm like, well, like I don't really have a core. And right, like I'm like, what do I do? And like also with the two babies, and then the cord, like the umbilical cords are still like, obviously I still have the placenta still inside of me. So I'm like, what? Okay, we need like an extra set of hands. So Matisse I missed that part. There's so many different parts, but Matisse did tell his mom that we were having the home birth after a certain point, because he went down to get more hot water, like maybe an hour before we had the babies. And she was like, you guys aren't going to the hospital, are you? And he was like, no, Mom, we're not going. And so anyways, we called down to her. We're like, come on up. And she was at the bottom of the stairs, like during the birth. And she was crying, and she came up, she was crying. She's like, oh my God, you guys, like she was just so happy. Like, and anyway, so she came, she helped us with the babies. I wanted to like do like the cord burning ceremony and everything. And I was just like, no, you guys, like, it's too much. There's too much going on. Just cut them. So my mother-in-law and Safia cut them, like the cords, once they had turned white. And then, my doula, she brought me like this just delicious, like cinnamony tea that was so good. And then I definitely felt like, not like in shock, but I was just like so like blown away by what had just happened. Like I was like, whoa. And I remember having that feeling and kind of being like, I just need to hold the babies. And so I was holding them, trying to breastfeed them, but the placenta took a while to come out. And I was still going through the contractions with that for 3 hours. The placenta was in there. And it was, I was so done with it. Like I just kept on saying, thank you, placenta. Like you can go now. But it was,
we're done.
Exactly. I was like, you can just, we can separate now. It's like, let's go our separate ways. But it just, I did not want to come out. And so, I took some angelica root. And then I coughed several times, and I actually I think it was after that last time that I started doing the coughing, and I was actually just alone with my daughter and in the bathroom, and then that's when I finally got it. Just came out like so. It was huge because it was like two placentas that were fused together. We believe, anyways. It was massive. So I think that's why it probably took so long for it to come out. But yeah, it was, I think I needed just like a second by myself. Like, even though my daughter was there, I feel like I just needed a little bit of privacy because I was like completely naked and it felt like I was, Anyways, I just needed that minute. It came out and yeah, I was like, ooh, okay. Phew, that's done. Like, was so relieved about that being finished. And then, yeah.
Did you feel like you had a lot of bleeding?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, I feel like it was the normal amount. It didn't feel like it
like
was
you weren't concerned.
No.
It was like the discomfort, right? That's why you wanted it out.
It was the discomfort, really. I was so tired of having contractions and I wanted it gone. Like, I was ready just to snuggle up in bed with the babies and just chill. But the bleeding was no more than I had with just one baby. It was, yeah. And yeah, then it was just, my husband and doula, they made me a placenta smoothie, and then they did prints with my daughter with the placenta prints, and yeah, it was really special. And I just was like, oh, I couldn't stop like laughing. Like, I was just so happy and so ecstatic that I had listened to my gut, and it really, like, I just kept on being like, it was like exactly how I wanted it to be. Like, there was no, looking back on it, there was no like moment that I would have changed or done differently. Like, it was really just so great. And I mean, I wouldn't say like, oh, wow, that was so easy. But as far as it went and everything, I'm like, that was so chill and so easy. And so it was just great. It was really great. Yeah.
It sounds really great.
Yeah.
I love that. So you had like 40-week twins, right? Because was it their due date they were born on?
Yes. So yeah, they were born on their due date at 40 weeks.
I used to think, because all twins that you hear about are born early and often have NICU stays. And so I kind of just thought twins were born early. But the more stories I hear of, like, for women who just chose physiologic birth and pregnancy, that's not really true. Twins actually stay in as long as other babies, often as long as singletons.
Yeah. I mean, I assume like there is some point where you kind of just like, your body's just like, okay, you're so big that they, we need to just get them out of here. But yeah, it's not necessarily as early, because like there isn't actually really any concrete data on when twins are meant to come, because they are like, in my situation with the OB, I would have had to have them at 36 or 37 weeks at the latest. So
it's interrupted, right? So we don't actually get to know.
Exactly. So yeah, but it was so funny because I went about my whole pregnancy being like, the due date doesn't matter. It's just a date. It doesn't matter. And then lo and behold, they were born on their due date. So it was so funny.
I love it.
Yeah, it was really special. And the postpartum was, I mean, it was honestly amazing. I don't know. We had such a good thing going on. I had a lot of support. We had like a whole schedule with my family. So we always had someone watching after my eldest daughter. I'm very grateful for that. So incredibly grateful for our family. They really stepped up in like so many different ways. And yeah, it just ended up being, really special.
How did you find breastfeeding twins?
Yeah, it was definitely a learning curve. I had a twinsy pillow, and I actually had someone that came by like a few days after they were born just to like look at them, check on them and stuff like that. And she was the one that mentioned how to put like extra pillows underneath the twinsy pillow. And so the biggest thing was that I had to have them high enough so that I could literally have them both latched. And it was a huge learning curve in the beginning because, I was so used to just breastfeeding one, and it's really quite different to do two. So it took me some time, and especially when they were little, like I couldn't have, like, with their heads being so delicate, and just their necks and not being able to hold up and everything. It really took me time to be able to get them on there at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it took a while. But then once we finally got it, once they got a little bit stronger, then it was easier. And I started using the haka. Like, I would breastfeed one on one side, I'd use the haka on the other. Then I just like fill a bottle. Then my husband could feed the other one. Like, we would do that sometimes at night, especially so that I could side feed, because the nights were the hardest, where I would have to like get up, like physically sit up and breastfeed. Like, it wasn't like, when you have one and you can just sort of like be kind of,
you almost don't have to wake up. You can just
exactly
right when there's just like one beside you. Yeah,
exactly. So it was different. It was definitely different breastfeeding too.
Yeah, it's a whole new thing. I mean, it's new with every baby, but that's next level new.
It really was. Yeah.
Did that OB ever contact you after you left the message?
Yeah.
Yep.
It was kind of like,
how'd that go?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like a breakup in a way. Like, she was sort of like, I hear you're leaving me and nobody's ever left me before. And it was on a voicemail. Like, I actually missed the call, and then it was on a voicemail. And then I was sort of like, do I need to get back to her again? And my husband's like, no, you're done. You're good. Like, that's it. That's fine. And so, yeah, she was kind of like, yeah, why are you leaving me? I was like, I don't ever have to explain that.
You know why.
Yeah.
Maybe she doesn't, but you know what? Like, you'd have to want to know, right? And if you've already decided you have all the answers, then
totally.
there's no learning there.
And you know what? Like, truly, honestly, like, I it's nothing against her. She's just doing her job. Like, this is all they know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm never against, I don't want to be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Like, she doesn't know. Like, of course, yeah. It's like, there's a part of me that feels that way. But at the same time, like, this is all that they're taught. So this is all they know. Like, it's nothing against her or the, the hospital or anything like that, because this is what it's working how it's meant to. So it's like,
it is. And there's a particular type of birth that they're offering.
Yes.
Which is maybe what some people want. Truly.
Exactly.
So,
and I would never,
and that's okay. Even like I'm
just like,
I didn't invite the
sorry, we're both talking at the same time. Going. Yeah, it's all
I know, because it's this little Wi-Fi delay. Hey,
yes, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I didn't invite the registered midwives. Well, I didn't have them at one birth, and the birth that I had them, I just didn't invite them to the birth. And I agree with what you're saying. They're lovely. Like, I would totally be friends with them. I just thought at that point, I was like, I don't think they have anything that I'm really interested in. Like, they're not really bringing anything I'm looking for at this birth. And some people are going to want that type of birth, and then there are those people are for them.
Totally. And at least that, I mean, for me, I think at the end of the day, it's like that the woman can feel good about making her choices for herself. So if she does choose that birth, then that's great. You know what I mean? If she feels like that's 100% the way she wants to go, then do that. Like, right. It's just that I just didn't feel like that was the birth for me. Sometimes when you tell these stories, or when some people hear, like, especially online, oh, like, you are advocating home birth or free birth. Well, no, actually, I'm not. I'm just advocating that women, like, listen to themselves and listen to their bodies and what feels right for them. That's what I'm about. And if going to the hospital is what feels right for you, then that's where you feel safe. Then do that. That wasn't what felt safe for me. So.
Yeah, that's what I think. There's so much power in story. Even just hearing your story about how it was your doula's story that got you, like, her own birth story that got you thinking, like, it's like we don't even know it's an option without these stories. And that's a big part of me wanting this, like, starting this podcast and wanting these stories out there, is like in order for there to actually be choice, you have to know what the options are. And this is one option that's not highlighted, is birthing at home, for one, not really highlighted. And then birthing without a medical attendant is another option that's really not highlighted. And you just
Very
have to know,
much.
maybe it's not for you. That's okay. It was great for me.
Yeah.
But you know, there was definitely stages like in my life where I would never would have chosen that. And that's okay. But you
Totally.
got to know. You got to know what the options are.
Totally. Totally. And I feel like if someone feels called to having an unassisted birth, then it's probably something that you can't really convince them out of. Like, like it's not something
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because it feels like it's like a deep desire. It's like a deep calling. It's not like I would ever be like, oh, you should have this type of birth. No, it's something that's very,
Mm-hmm.
very personal for each woman, and it's going to look different for everyone. So yeah, it's
Yep. And for most of us, it's not taken lightly. It's with a lot
yeah,
of thought and a lot of
yeah,
listening and reading and diving deep into your own intuition. It's not an accident. We
no,
don't like
no,
accidentally bring these particular types of women to our birth. It's with great intention and knowledge of what they're bringing.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, yeah, 100%. Yeah, so grateful for that.
Yeah, me too. I'm
Yeah.
really glad there's women out there to support us in those ways and exactly the
Definitely.
ways we're looking for.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What did you find supportive in terms of so pregnancy discomfort? Did you do body work? What did you find supportive?
Yeah, so I mentioned my osteopath. I saw her a number of times and I found her to be super, super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in terms of just kind of like freeing up space within my body. And just I had like massive back discomfort in my SI,
Mm-hmm.
massive, and she helped that a lot. Um, and so yeah, that was I did have some massages, but I found that was more for like just relaxation. I felt like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the osteopathy was huge for me. Um, and just in terms of like movement, I did yoga. I did a program called Spinning Babies. I don't know if you heard of
Oh, yep.
them. They, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I actually used them for my first pregnancy as well. And they offer like, it's like a daily activities program that I did, which kind of shows you how to like step out of the car when you're pregnant and how to
Mm-hmm.
walk and how to carry your body and how to make sure like how to sit and how to sleep. And then it had like a whole yoga series within it. And then also there was like an inversion that I would do to kind of like free up my ligaments and stuff like that, that I found to be super helpful. Like I really think Spinning Babies is why I ended up having all three babies head down, which is like, yeah, I really think it was because of them,
Mm-hmm.
because I was so mindful of like, okay, I need to be like, yeah, sleeping and so many different things.
Yep. Yeah. What would you say? Do you have like pieces of advice for twin mamas? Like, what would you say?
Oh man. I mean, the biggest piece of advice I think is just to know how incredibly powerful you are, and to like I adore twin moms. I adore twin
Mm-hmm.
moms because it's like um they are so, I mean, every mother is strong, like no, without a doubt. Women are just strong in general. Mothers, okay, it's like you're on another level. Twin moms, it's something very special because you have to go through so much learning
Mm-hmm.
that just makes you bulletproof in the end. It really it's so incredibly unique. Twins are so rare. It's such a, we're such a small but mighty group is what I always say.
Mm-hmm.
And that, yeah, the biggest piece of advice is um, just to know how incredibly strong you are, and know that this opportunity was given to you for a reason, and that you are capable, and to always like ask for support and accept support. I think like motherhood in general, you shouldn't be doing it alone. We're not meant to do it alone. But with twins, like you actually cannot do it alone. There has to be a support system in place. And so to open yourself up to having help, maybe it's not the way that you would necessarily always do things. And I had to come to terms with that as well. Like when you're getting help, maybe it's not like, ooh, the way you would do it, but you are getting the help, and that's the most important thing. And that's what's going to allow you to thrive and allow for your babies to thrive. So yeah. And just, you can do it. You got this.
Yeah. Love that. How did you find registering their births? Yeah.
Because I had so many appointments already, like
right. Lots of prenatal care documents.
Yeah, it was kind of pretty easy, I think. But I had all of the information sent to me on how to like register the live births and everything. And so it was just basically going through the steps. It was just,
pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. But I had exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was like not really, it's like, oh, we have to do this and we have to do that. But yeah, it was pretty straightforward in the end. And obviously, like I said, having all of the proof of pregnancy, I think was, it was pretty easy. But
it is helpful to think of that before and just like at least have something, like even one.
Yeah.
One visit, one blood test, one
just something to show that you were
visit even. Yeah.
I was
somebody saw you pregnant. It really happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I love that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, more of all the kinds of stories, but especially like twin births we of course don't hear as often. They're not as common. Yeah. So
that's true.
I love it.
It's true. Well, I love reliving it, and thank you so much for everything you're doing and sharing these stories, and having the platform to do so.
Thanks for listening. You can head to Instagram and birth.throughtheveil to see birth pictures or just pictures from each episode. The show notes have links and more ways to connect, along with the link to submit your birth story. I would love to hear it. New episodes of Through the Veil come out every other Tuesday. You can follow, subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast to be in support.